Sweet, beautiful rookie mistakes. I know over the years I've made a few. It's just the nature of the game. You pick things up over time and do not make those same sweet, beautiful rookie mistakes again. Back when I first got into design, if you watched my video of how I got into design, you'll know I was doing fabrication. And I had a pretty good history with fabbing things out, so I had a pretty good understanding of how things get designed. But I still made some mistakes. We'll call them rookie mistakes. I know we're not supposed to say they're mistakes. They're learning events or whatever the heck they're being bottled up as nowadays. Put a positive spin on it. No, I made mistakes. And I see a lot of newer designers, maybe some older ones too that have been around a while, that are making similar kinds of mistakes. And I want to talk about some of them when it comes to like a machine part, like in this case. So here on screen, I've seen some permutation of this over and over again over the years, okay? And I'm just making it as simple and as basic as possible so you can see exactly kind of what I'm talking about. Now, before I get into this, do me a favor. I know I gotta beg. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. It really helps me out. It helps me out the most. Comments are always fun. If you've run into stuff like this and you've had different solutions, it's always nice to hear those. You're helping other people as well that go through and read those comments, so those are greatly appreciated. And of course, like the video. That's also nice as well. And again, thanks. I wouldn't be doing this without you. So back to this. First one is, the easiest one is this face right over here. When I look at this face, if you watch my prior video, the one I did just the other day, you'll note this has a knife edge. Knife edges are bad. And I've seen people go in here and want to clean stuff up like this because if it's not cleaned up, they have a step like that. Now, this is not that big of a deal. Really, it's not. And I'll demonstrate here in a minute. When this was made, this was an extrusion off of this edge that's on a bias. Okay, and you know, if we look at it, it's not orthographic. It's aligned to a different place in the world. So if I were to do a unite on this, and then run my edge blend on this. Let's do trim. I got to turn that on in order for this to work. You'll note it puts that blend in there. And I'll put the same size on over on this side, and you'll note it works out just fine. So this is really what that corner is going to look like when they go to machine that. And that's fine. Perpendicular to this face and this face, same thing down here. And in truth, you know, this is just a simple cut. Here's another cut, and this is another cut. That makes the machining of this pretty straightforward. Yeah, it's a little bit an extra step in here to clean up that face, but I'm staying away from knife edges. Now, if you're okay with a knife edge, maybe on that corner, because it's not going to touch anything, it may be okay and put a chamfer on it to get that knife edge broken so it's not sharp, because a hand might run over the top of it or whatever that may be. You still would need to chamfer it. You'd still need to add that and, you know, complexity to the model. Something would have to be done. Unless, you know, again, for some extraordinary reason, nobody cares, which is exceptionally rare. So this is really the best scenario. Now, we come up here. The other side has a similar scenario. And I've seen people do this as well. They take this out, they build it big, and they trim it back, and you get a knife edge, and this is the side that's going to be pushed up against something. This is a no-no. That's a big no-no. We don't want that. So how do we remedy that? I'm just going to delete that. And if this were my design from the very beginning, I'd have inputs in there set up so it would be clean. I wouldn't necessarily have the steps that I'm going through now. I may have datums and various other things to use to do this, but because I'm modifying someone else's data, or this has just got to get released and it's never going to be touched again, who cares? The way I would go about doing it is a datum axis. I want this face and this face. once I have that datum axis, because this is where eventually this edge that you see here, this edge right here, this vertical one, is going to sit right at this datum axis. And this face, as well as clipping this corner on this body, need to be perpendicular to this face. So in order to do that, I'm going to define a datum plane. The datum plane is going to go through that axis and this face. And I'm going to say perpendicular. If you're doing this in V5 or another CAD system, just put in 90 degrees. Some of them will allow you to do perpendicular like this, normal to whatever. Now, with that, I am going to come down to my unite. There's my unite. I am going to use, in this case, a replace face. And I'm going to replace this face. And, you know, this is giving me another video idea. So why on earth would I use a replace face rather than a trim? Maybe it's called one-stop solutions, because a trim could potentially have two solutions, whereas a replace has only one. So in my mind, that's a bit more of a stable type of feature for this. Yeah, it's another video. I sense another video coming out of that. So once again, if I put my fillets on, this is exactly what this is going to look like. Okay. This is just what this needs right over here. This is going to get cut, and this is going to get cut. Do not put in another radius on this corner right here. It does not need it. Okay? You're just adding stuff it does not need. And then you're going to be rounding off this face, and we don't want to do that. Next, I'm going to go ahead and remedy this. There's usually a little bit of leeway with ribs, things that you can do. And, you know, maybe in this case, this rib needs to be exactly there, and you would have to machine out a little pocket to get rid of this little bit here. And that's fair. That may be the case. I've seen that happen because the rib could not move at all. But if you have a little wiggle room on that rib, which, again, in most cases you do, the right way to do something like this, let me go up here. Okay, the way this was done is, again, this was a sketch down the center and extruded to both sides, which created that gap. Again, I've seen this happen. So then somebody decides they're going to move that face, and then they're going to trim away. This is a place where you'd have to use trim body rather than replace face. And again, that's not right. Okay, I'm going to delete that. The best way to do this is to, let me go into the sketch. I am going to do a super cheat. I'm going to draw in a line. And I am going to trim here to here to here to here. And then this line that you see here, I'm just going to pull it away. Now I can't pull it away too easily. So I know we've got that beautiful cheat mechanism mode, no persistent. Look at that. And then I'm going to go back in here and turn that off. I just love that. I know, you don't have to like it. I do. I'm going to take this line to this line. This is an intersection, so I'm just going to go up to that endpoint. I am going to measure. Let's grab this. Let me pull this away. Oops, actually, let me undo that. It made it coincident there, which I don't want. So let's do that. We'll go 4. Then this up to the top. Actually, you know what? Up to the top here. Go coincident. And then this back edge, I'll come in and I'll just say 10. And you'll see why I'm going to make it big here in a minute. Let me finish. Let me update my extrusion. And that's what that's going to look like. The reason why I made it big is because, once again, if something were to change, I would never want this to interfere with this back face. So again, I replace face as a bit of insurance to go from here to here. And now when I come in with my unite, add this in, and that's fine. Come down to the bottom. We end up with that. All right, so let me come over here. This is a better case scenario. Now, this is going to potentially cause problems depending on the size of the radius you need down in this face. So if I came in here and said I needed a 10 millimeter radius in this, one side and the other side works great, but this side, why isn't it working? It's broken. Call up the devs, right? I'm going to shrink this a little bit. Let me go down to 8. What's going on, let me pick my edge, is this edge right here. If I go smaller, pay attention to this edge, what happens to it? If I go smaller with this radius, notice the edge walks back. If I go larger with that radius, notice it fails. What happens, let me go 8.5 to get it really close. What happens is, as this walks up, it's going to reach a point where it touches that tangency and wants to go past it. And it can't do that. So this is a scenario in which this would be about as large a fillet as I could get in there in order to have this edge in the position that it is in. Think of it as if I were going to machine this. Okay, I put the cutter down on this face and cut it straight through the top. Well, if I make this too big, this wants to run into there, which in essence would be nicking this back face, which we don't want. So this type of scenario, if I really needed a much larger blend in here, I would have to come in here and move this, put it out. Let me update. Now I would be able to put in that much larger blend. Let me do that. So maybe I need that 10. Maybe I need this at 11. Okay, now it's going to do that. I can really move that around to get that to fit. And I realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I shouldn't have this be so big. Let me do this. Add remove expression. So if I go down to 6, will it still work? Yep. If I go down to 5, will it still work? It'll be close. Okay, if I go down to 4, I know it'll fail, right? If I go up to 12, that'll still work. But eventually it'll get to the point where it will no longer work. All right, so do this. Let me double click on there. When I made that, I picked a single edge. Had I picked tangent edges to begin with, this would run all along that. And this, my friends, is really what that should look like, right? Driven corners, no knife edges, a rib that's very easy to machine, etc. Now, if, again, for some reason, it has to look different and you can't make it this simple, I understand it. But what I'm talking about is if you do have leeway, if you do have the ability to expand on the design, simplify it, clean things up a little bit, this is what you want to do. Again, imagine, you're going to cut this as a planar top face. Now, if that's not the case, maybe who cares whether or not this is planar? I mean, there's always ways, and this is maybe if it's something you guys want to see, let me know and I can put it in there. There's other ways to get this top face and have it match to those edges. Okay, there's other ways to go about doing that. So this is what I'm talking about as far as making it as simple as possible. This could be easily made on a 3-axis machine. Easily. No complications whatsoever. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's kind of what I'm going with this. And that's how we want to design our parts, being thoughtful of how is this thing going to be cut. If I'm complicating things, I'm going to have to use a more complex machine time, setups, additional setups cost money. So we want to minimize all that. And this is how we do that. Again, for the rookies, people that are just getting into this, or maybe you've been designing a while and now you're doing machine parts, these are things that you need to consider. Okay? Again, leave some comments. Ask me some questions. You know, if there's a couple things that I mentioned in here that I may want to do videos about, one of them I will for sure. You know, there's other methods to making ribs. Again, if the top's not planar, there are different things that you can do as well. If you want to see that, let me know. Leave me a comment. Anyway, have a great day. And again, thanks. I wouldn't be doing this if you weren't here to be a part of it. Thank you.